Chapter 7. Morning brought rain and wind and fog. Pessimistic weather that made it hard to believe the previous day had been anything more than a strange and wonderful dream. I wolfed on my breakfast and told my dad I was going out. He looked at me like I was nuts. In this? To do what? To hang out with? I started without thinking. Then, to cover my tracks, I pretended to have a piece of food stuck in my throat. But it was too late. He'd heard me. Hang out with who? Not those rapper hoodlums, I hope. The only way out of this hole was to dig deeper. No, you've probably never seen them. They live on the other side of the island, and really? I didn't think anyone lived over there. Yeah, well, just a few people. Like sheep tenders and whatnot. Anyway, they're cool. They watch my back while I'm at the house. Friends and safety. Two things my dad couldn't possibly object to. I went to meet them, he said, trying to look stern. He often put on this face, in imitation of the sensible, no nonsense dad I think he aspired to be. Sure thing. We're meeting up over there, though, so another time. He nodded and took another bite of his breakfast. Be back by dinner, he said. Roger Wilco, Dad. I practically raced to the bog. As I picked my way through its shifting muck, trying to remember the route of semi-visible grass islands Emma had used to cross it, I worried that all I would find on the other side was more rain and a ruined house. So it was with great relief that I emerged from the cairn to find September 3rd, 1940, just as I'd left it. The day warm and sunny and fogless, the sky a dependable blue, clouds forming shapes that seemed comfortingly familiar. Even better, Emma was there waiting for me, sitting on the edge of the mound, casting stones into the bog. About time, she cried, jumping to her feet. Come on, everyone's waiting for you. They are? Yes, she said with an impatient eye roll, taking my hand and pulling me after her. It sparked with excitement, not only at her touch, but at the thought of the day that lay ahead, full of endless possibilities, though in a million superficial ways it would be identical to the day before. The same breeze would blow and the same tree limbs would fall. My experience of it would be new. So would the peculiar children's. They were the gods of this strange little heaven, and I was their guest. We dashed across the bog and through the forest, as if late for an appointment. When we reached the house, Emma led me around to the backyard, where a small wooden stage had been erected. Kids were bustling in and out of the house, carrying props, buttoning up suit jackets, and zipping into sequin dresses. Warming up was a little orchestra made of just an accordion, a battered trombone, and a musical saw that Horace played with a bow. What's this? I asked Emma. Are you guys putting on a play? You'll see, she said. Who's in it? You'll see. What's it about? She pinched me. A whistle blew, and everyone ran to claim seats in the row of folding chairs that faced the stage. Emma and I sat down just as the curtain opened, revealing a straw boater hat floating atop a gaudy red and white striped suit. It was only when I heard a voice did I realize that, of course, it was Millard. Ladies and gentlemen, he crowed. It gives me the utmost pleasure to present to you a performance like no other in history. A show of such unrivaled daring, of such accomplished magicianship, that you simply won't believe your eyes. Good citizens, I give you Miss Peregrine and her peculiar children. The audience burst into uproarious applause. Millard tipped his hat. For our first illusion, I will produce Miss Peregrine herself. He ducked behind the curtain and emerged a moment later, a folded sheet draped over one arm and a peregrine falcon perched on the other. He nodded to the orchestra, which lurched into a kind of wheezing carnival music. Emma elbowed me. Watch this, she whispered. Millard set the falcon down and held the sheet in front, screening the bird from the audience. He began counting backward. 3, 2, 1. On one, I heard the unmistakable flap of wings and then saw Miss Peregrine's head, her human head, pop up from behind the sheet, even more uproarious applause. Her hair was mussed, and I could only see her from the shoulders up. She seemed to be naked behind the sheet. Apparently, when you change into a bird, your clothes don't go along for the ride. Taking the edges of the sheet, she wrapped it chastely around herself. "Mr. Portman," she said, peering down at me from the stage, "I'm so happy you've returned. This is a little exhibition we used to tour around the continent back in the Halkany days. I thought you might find it instructive." And then she swept off stage in a flourish, heading into the house to retrieve her clothes. One after another, the peculiar children came out of the audience and took the stage, each with an act of their own. Millard removed his tuxedo so that he was completely invisible and juggled glass bottles. Olive removed her leaden shoes and performed a gravity-defying gymnastics routine on a set of parallel bars. Emma made fire, swallowed it, then blew it out again without burning herself. I applauded until I thought my hands would blister. When Emma returned to her seat, I turned to her and said, "I don't understand. You perform this for people?" "Of course," she replied. "Normal people?" "Of course, normal people. Why would peculiars pay to see things they can do themselves?" "But wouldn't this, blow your cover?" She chuckled. "Nobody suspected a thing," she said. "People come to sideshows to see stunts and tricks and what all, and as far as anyone knew, that's exactly what we showed them." "So you were hiding in plain sight." "It used to be the way most peculiars made a living," she said. "And no one ever caught on? Once in a while we'd get some knobhead backstage asking nosy questions, which is why there'd always be a strong arm on hand to toss them out on their bums. Speak the devil, here she is now." Up on stage, a mannish-looking girl was dragging a boulder the size of a small refrigerator out from behind the curtain. "She may not be the sharpest tool in the woodshed," Emma whispered, "but she's got a massive heart, and she'd go to the grave for her mates. We're thick as thieves, Bronin and me." Someone had passed around a stack of promotional cards Miss Peregrine had used to advertise their act. It reached me with Bronin's card on top. In her picture, she stood barefoot, challenging the camera with an icy stare. Emblazoned across the back was "The Amazing Strong Girl of Swansea." "Why isn't she lifting a boulder, if that's what she does on stage?" I asked. She was in a foul mood because the bird made her dress like a lady for the picture. She refused to lift so much as a hat box. Looks like she drew the line at wearing shoes, too. She generally does. Bronin finished dragging the rock to the middle of the stage, and for an awkward moment she just stared into the crowd, as if someone had told her to pause for dramatic effect. Then she bent down and gripped the rock between her big hands and slowly lifted it above her head. Everyone clapped and hooted. The kids' enthusiasm undimmed, though. They'd probably seen her do this trick 1,000 times. It was almost like being at a pep rally for a school I didn't attend. Bronin yawned and walked off with the boulder tucked under one arm. Then the wild-haired girl took the stage. Her name was Fiona, Emma said. She stood facing the crowd behind a planter filled with dirt, her hands raised above it like a conductor. The orchestra began to play Flight of the Bumblebee, as well as they could anyway, and Fiona pawed the air above the planter, her face contorted in effort and concentration. As the song crescendoed, a row of daisies poked up from the dirt and unfurled toward their hands. It was like one of those fast-motion videos of plants blooming, except she seemed to be reeling the flowers up from their loamy bed by invisible string. The kids ate it up, jumping out of their seats to cheer her on. Emma flipped through the stack of postcards to Fiona's. Her card's my favorite, she said. We worked for days on her costume. I looked at it. She was dressed like a beggar girl and stood holding a chicken. What's she supposed to be? I asked. A homeless farmer? Emma pinched me. She's meant to look natural, like a savage type person. Jill of the Jungle, we called her. Is she really from the jungle? She's from Ireland. Are there lots of chickens in the jungle? She pinched me again. While we'd been whispering, Hugh had joined Fiona on stage. He stood with his mouth open, letting bees fly out to pollinate the flowers that Fiona had grown, like a weird mating ritual. What else does Fiona grow besides bushes and flowers? All these vegetables, Emma said, gesturing to the garden beds in the yard, and trees sometimes. Really? Whole trees? She sorted through the postcards again. Sometimes we'll play Jill and the Beanstalk. Someone will grab hold of one of the saplings at the edge of the woods, and we'll see how high Fiona can get it to go while we're riding it. She arrived at the photo she'd been hunting for and tapped it with her finger. This was the record, she said proudly. 20 meters. You guys get pretty bored around here, huh? She moved to pinch me again, but I blocked her hand. I'm no expert on girls, but when one tries to pinch you 4 times, I'm pretty sure that that's flirting. There were a few more acts after Fiona and Hugh left the stage, but by then the kids were getting antsy, and soon we dispersed to spend the rest of the day in summery bliss, lazing in the sun, sipping limeade, playing croquet, tending to gardens that, thanks to Fiona, hardly needed tending, discussing our options for lunch. I wanted to ask Miss Peregrine more about my grandfather, a subject I avoided with Emma, who turned morose at any mention of his name. But the headmistress had gone to conduct a lesson in the study for the younger kids. It seemed like I had plenty of time, though, and the languid pace and midday heat sapped my will to do anything more taxing than wander the grounds in dreamy amazement. After a decadent lunch of goose sandwiches and chocolate pudding, Emma began to agitate for the older kids to go swimming. Out of the question, Millard groaned, the top button of his pants popping open. I'm stuffed like a Christmas turkey. We were sprawled on velvet chairs around the sitting room, full to bursting. Bronan lay curled with her head between 2 pillows. I'd sink straight to the bottom, came her muffled reply. But Emma persisted. After 10 minutes of wielding, she roused Hugh, Fiona, and Horace from their naps and challenged Bronan, who apparently could not forego a competition of any kind, to a swimming race. Upon seeing us all trooping out of the house, Millard scolded us for trying to leave him behind. The best spot for swimming was by the harbor, but getting there meant walking straight through town. What about those crazy drunks who think I'm a German spy? He said. I don't feel like getting chased with clubs today. You wit, Emma said. That was yesterday. They won't remember a thing. Just hang a towel around you so they don't see your future clothes, said Horace. I had on jeans and a t-shirt, my usual outfit, and Horace wore his customary black suit. He seemed to be one of the Miss Peregrine school of dress, morbidly ultra-formal no matter what the occasion. His photograph was among those I found in the smashed trunk, and in an attempt to dress up for it, he'd gone completely overboard. Top hat, cane, monocle, the works. You're right, I said, cocking an eyebrow at Horace. I wouldn't want anyone to think I was dressed weird. If it's my waistcoat you're referring to, he replied haughtily. Yes, I admit I am a follower of fashion. The others snickered. Go ahead, have a laugh at old Horace's expense. Call me a dandy, if you will. Just because the villagers won't remember what you wear doesn't give you license to dress like a vagabond. And with that, he set about straightening his lapels which only made the kids laugh harder. In a snit, he pointed an accusing finger at my clothes. As for him, God help us if that's all our wardrobes have to look forward to.